Sometimes 10 seconds is all it takes to change the course of a life. Julia Broeder had learned that lesson the hard way last week, when an impulsive decision triggered a string of events that now had her waiting on this hard bench outside the conference room at the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. Behind the closed conference room door sat the 12 people who were deciding her fate. She would either be allowed to continue her education and graduate in the spring as a fully licensed physician, or she would be expelled and sent home in disgrace. Dean Edith Kreutzer was a celebrated trailblazer in the crusade to get women admitted to the medical profession, but this morning she had looked as cold as an ice queen as she convened the college's board of trustees to determine Julia's fate. Julia curled her fingers around the rim of the hard bench, the only furniture in the small foyer outside the conference room. Every impulse urged her to stand and press her ear to the paneled door to hear the board's discussion, but she forced herself to sit still. There was nothing she could do to influence the board's decision. It didn't matter how badly she wanted to become a doctor, or that she ranked at the top of her class in academics and was eager to go out and be a physician in some of the poorest areas of the world. All that mattered was what she did last weekend. It was Saturday morning when all the trouble began. Like all Saturdays, she was working at the college's pharmaceutical laboratory alongside 6 other ladies enrolled in medical school. As part of her coursework in pharmacology, she was making synchronine pills by grinding the powder to the right consistency and pouring the medication into the tiny aluminum molds. At first, she paid no attention to the intermittent bits of noise coming from outside the window, but finally a spray of pebbles hit the window glass and got her attention. From the second-story window, she recognized the 2 young men standing in the slushy yard below. They worked for the Philadelphia Fire Department, and she knew them from Fairmount Park, where she and her classmates sometimes escaped to play tennis in balmy weather or go skating in the winter. Ross McKinney had a fine toboggan he often loaned her to go barreling down the slope when it snowed. The fireman and his friend seemed like decent young men, and she loved careening down the hillside on their toboggan. She tugged up the window sash, chilly air flooding the room as she leaned outside. "If you hurl any more rocks at this window, I'll suspect you of being one of those tedious revolutionaries who rattle sabers and threaten to storm the ramparts." Neither man laughed. One of them cradled a dog in his arms. Even from the second story, Julia could tell the dog was horribly mangled. "I'll be right down," she said, slamming the window sash so hard the glass rattled. The dog was a Boston Terrier. One of her ears was partially torn off. Her face was full of puncture wounds. Julia wanted to wince and look away, but doctors didn't have that luxury, and neither did she. "Have you got any drugs that might fix her up, Miss Broeder?" Ross asked. It would take more than drugs to fix this dog. That ear was going to need to be anchored back on with a row of stitches, and even then she wasn't sure it could be saved. It was a Saturday, so the operating room at Olson Hall should be available. The room was locked, but locked doors had never stopped Julia in the past. If one avenue was closed to her, she would go over, under, or around the obstacle until she reached her goal. In this case, it was by standing on the shoulders of one of the firemen to slip through the unlocked window of the operating room and then traveling through the darkened hallways to let the men, dog, and 2 of her classmates in through the front door of the building. None of them had treated a dog before, but surely the principles of suturing a wound, cleaning to prevent infection, and stitching mangled flesh together were the same. Ross's friend had to dash off to his shift at the fire station, but Ross stayed and stroked the dog's flank, murmuring soothing words while Julia held a mask over the dog's snout, gently squeezing the rubber ball that fed a stream of anesthesia to the terrier.